Hope everyone's having a pleasant afternoon. We're just headed home after a day in Winchester, Virginia, which is about as far north as you can go in Virginia on Interstate 81 and still be in the state. It's like the northern tip of the Shenandoah Valley, just before you hit West Virginia. And we were going to make a video about this new 2025 Ramcharger that just debuted, I think 2 or 3 days ago, and what an amazing truck it is. And we were going to talk all about that truck, but what we really are going to say is this is what the F-150 Lightning could have been and should have been, and if Ford was on the ball, they would have made this truck 2 or 3 years ago. And shockingly, they didn't. And instead they made the Lightning, which, as we have come to find out, is essentially a failure of a truck. It is not selling, even at the prices that Ford is trying to sell it at, which represent a huge loss, which represent a 5-figure loss per truck, more than $10,000 of a loss per truck. And they still can't sell them. And a couple weeks ago, they had to cut one of the shifts at the factory that makes them. And if that doesn't represent a failure of product planning and execution, I don't know what does. Again, they cannot give these away, even at a 5-figure loss. And that is very, very unlike Ford, because as we know, Ford has gotten extremely good over the years at taking your money. And they know how to build trucks, and they know how to design trucks and engineer trucks and price trucks in such a way as to extract the maximum number of dollars from customers' pockets. And yet, for some reason, they completely whiffed it on the F-150 Lightning. And there's really two reasons, which come down to one reason. It's a truck that is doesn't have a lot of range when you actually hitch up a trailer, like most truck users tend to do. And because of that fact, you need to pull over and charge it, maybe halfway to the campsite, maybe halfway to the lake, or wherever you're trying to go with that truck. And then the second thing is, once you pull over and plug it in, it takes forever to charge it, because of the fact that it's got a very, very large battery and it doesn't charge that fast. And those two things combined, again, the fact that it doesn't have a lot of range either with a trailer or in cold weather, and the fact that it takes forever to charge once you do pull over to plug it in, those two reasons together are why this truck is a failure and why nobody wants it. And they should have known that, because a lot of people were saying that. We were saying that almost 3 years ago. As soon as we got our Power Boost and started taking long trips in it, which was March of 2021, almost 3 years ago. And then we heard that the Lightning was going to be coming out. We knew from the get-go that it was not going to work, at least for us and for most of the other people who drive trucks and put a lot of miles on them. And so it's not really a surprise in the least that that truck is failing, as is basically every other electric pickup truck, of which there aren't that many. Really, the only one other than the Lightning that's out right now is the Rivian R1T, and I guess some people are buying it. The Silverado EV is coming out at some point soon. The Cybertruck, Tesla Cybertruck, may be shipping at the end of this month, November of 23. And who knows if they'll succeed with it. Tesla has the ability, unlike every other manufacturer, of driving the price way, way, way down, because of the fact that their margins are so good, because of the fact that their cost position is so good, and they're manufacturing profitably at scale with a very, very low cost of goods sold, and they're continuously improving it, unlike everybody else. And so, that much being said, the 2025 Ramcharger, if you could design the ultimate light-duty pickup, and from our perspective, if we could design the ultimate F-150, what would it be? Well, a couple things. The first thing is that it would have to have the speed and power of, call it the Power Boost, or call it the F-150 Lightning. Either one of those have more speed and more power that you're ever going to need with or without a trailer hitched up. The Power Boost has, 430 horsepower, 570 pound-feet of torque, and it feels a lot faster than that. And it provides instantaneous thrust at any RPM, at any vehicle speed, with or without a trailer hitched up, on level ground or going up a steep hill, or going up the steep mountains, or at 11,000 feet, going through the Loveland Pass. And the F-150 Lightning is the very same way, because of the fact that it's an EV and it has instantaneous power and torque. So any perfect ultimate F-150 that you were going to design would have to have that much speed and power. Number 2, it would have to have the generator mode of the Power Boost or the Lightning, meaning 7.2 kWs of 240 volt AC on demand, whether you're driving, whether you're sitting still. Essentially the ability to run your house if you have a blackout, the ability to run a job site, the ability to run a welder, the ability to charge an electric vehicle if you're towing one somewhere, the ability to run all the appliances in a camper, okay, which is a very, very common use case for people who have pickups, even light-duty pickups, and who maybe live out of their camper, or maybe they take, a month-long or a season-long road trip. Maybe they're a snowbird and they live out of their camper during the winter in Florida. Any ultimate F-150 would have to have the ability to run all the appliances in your camper, including your HVAC, your hot water heater, your refrigerator, your stove, all your entertainment systems, everything. And in order to do that, you really have to have 7.2 kWs at least of 240, and not just 2 or 3 kilowatts of 120 AC, like the new Super Duty, the 23 Super Duty, which so disappointingly only has 2 kilowatts of 120, and that just doesn't cut it. Number 3, you would need, or you would really appreciate the absolute maximum degree of mechanical simplicity, such as what a lot of people think is the best ever F-150, which is the 15 to 17 F-150 with the 5.0 V8 and the 6-speed automatic. The 5.0 because it's not forced induction, and so you don't have all those issues associated with a turbo, and high volumes of high pressure air going into your engine and placing your combustion chambers and your rings and your bottom end and everything in that engine under a huge amount of stress. Your head gaskets. If you want an F-150 that's going to last you 20 or 25 years, ideally it would have a naturally aspirated engine. And to be honest, a gas engine is not the worst thing to have over long periods of time, because diesels, although they do tend to be stouter and heavier built, they take a lot of maintenance, and you're changing fuel filters all the time, and you're changing you're doing all that stuff you got to do with the emissions, and you're doing regens, and you're doing maintenance on your SCR, meaning your DEF system, and you're doing maintenance on your EGR system because the cooler is constantly getting plugged up. And those after treatment systems on modern diesels, meaning anything after about a 2010, are kind of a maintenance nightmare in the long run. And so, to be honest, it wouldn't be the worst thing to have a naturally aspirated gasoline engine, like we said, in like the 2015 to 17 F-150 with the 5.0, and we would not want, again, for the long run, that 10-speed automatic that the F-150 has now, or the Super Duty has now, or the Duramax, either light duty or heavy duty. That transmission, it drives great, but do you think it's going to last 250,000 miles without failing? No, absolutely not. And so just keep that in mind. Number 3, if you were designing the ultimate, the perfect F-150, you would want mechanical simplicity to the greatest extent possible. Okay, number 4. You would want the payload and towing that you get in the F-150 with the heavy-duty payload package, or the HDPP, which, oh, by the way, they're discontinuing at the end of this year, at the end of 23. That truck can hold upwards of 3,000 pounds of payload, and it can pull a 14,000 pound trailer. Okay, like our Featherlight that we have, which is a 14,000 GVW trailer with, call it around 2,000 pounds of hitch weight when it's fully loaded. 2,000, maybe 2,500. In a perfect world, it would be great if an F-150 could tow that much. Now, the power boost is limited to 12.3K of conventional with the max tow package. It's limited to 9.1K of a gooseneck. The diesel F-150 that we have is limited to, I think, 10K conventional and 8.2K, meaning 8,200 pounds with a gooseneck. And oh, by the way, you would never want to tow that much with a diesel F-150 because it's just not strong. It's just not that strong of a truck. So again, keep that in mind. Ultimate payload, ultimate towing. That's what you want if you're going to design the ultimate F-150. Okay. That's number 4. Number 5, in a perfect world, it would be nice to have the fuel economy of the 3.0 Power Stroke, which we own. That thing gets 30 miles to the gallon on the highway without a trailer, and about 18 miles to the gallon on the highway with a trailer. Call it 16 to 18. And that's half the reason why we kept the 3.0 Power Stroke diesel when we got our new Super Duty and traded in the Power Boost. We love the Power Boost in so many ways. The problem with that truck, one of the problems with that truck, one of the 3 problems with that truck is that it gets awful gas mileage when it's pulling a trailer. You're talking about mid to high single digits. The other problem is that 3.5 EcoBoost with the hybrid system, it was very hard to see that thing aging gracefully. Very, very hard. And then the third thing that was wrong with that Power Boost is that the payload was just way too low. It had around a 1,400 pound payload. And that's with the max tow package, which has the higher GVWR of 7,350. And so, again, if you were to design the ultimate F-150, in a perfect world, you'd have something that gets that fuel economy, again, under heavy load of a diesel, like the 3.0 Power Stroke that we still have. But that was not as much of a dog as the 3.0 Power Stroke, because that truck, it does not like to work hard. We've had our trailer loaded up to, I think, around 7,500. No, 6,500. Our 28-foot gooseneck, and that engine was entirely unhappy pulling that heavy of a trailer. Okay, number 6, and it's not the biggest thing in the world, the end of the world, but it would be nice if it had a self-driving system like the 21 and newer F-150 has. And it doesn't even need to be Blue Cruise. It could just be the Co-Pilot 360 2.0 assist, which we have in our XLT, which we actually had in both of our XLT F-150s. A system that will speed up or slow down with traffic, and that will keep you in the lane when you're driving. And that is essential when you're going 8, 10, 12, 14 hours down the road in the course of a day. When you're towing, when you're driving in heavy traffic, you just kind of have to have it. It keeps you a lot better rested, and it cuts down your mental workload to the point where you're not making bad decisions at the end of a long day because you're just exhausted and worn out. And so, again, the perfect pickup truck in our minds would have that self-driving system. And again, it does not have to be Blue Cruise. That's number 6. Number 7 is the long bed, meaning with a crew cab F-150, you got to have that 6.5 foot bed. It is way, way, way too easy to fill up a 5.5 foot bed. I mean, we have a hard time living with a 6.5 foot bed because, you know, you can't even fit 2 pallets of freight in a 6.5 foot bed, even sideways. If they made a bed that was 80 inches, which was, 80 or 82, which is I think what the Ram bed is. I think the Ram so-called long bed with their quad cab is 7 feet, and that's ideally what we'd get. But if we had to live with 6.5 feet, we could. And oh, by the way, you can hitch up a gooseneck as long as it's got a tapered nose with no issues in a truck that has a 6.5 foot bed, because we do it all the time. And then the final thing, number 8, would be an aluminum body. Ford switched to an aluminum body in 2015 with the F-150, and then in 2017 with the Super Duty, and it is a life-changing experience buying a truck that you know is never going to rust out and disintegrate after 5 or 10 or 15 winters in the Midwest or the Northeast. And oh, by the way, a truck body that's a whole hell of a lot lighter. I think in the F-150, at least the 2015, their number was, I think, 800 pounds that they were saving over a steel body. And that went right into payload and capability and towing. And so if you drive a truck that has a steel body, you are sacrificing about 800, give or take, pounds of payload and towing. And you're also accepting the fact that your truck is going to start to rust and disintegrate and rot the first time it sees winter weather. And you get salt on the roads, and you get that slush and salt and rocks and gravel kicked up into your wheel wells, into your rockers. And it's just tragic, especially with the amount of money people are paying now for a truck. The idea that you're going to buy a $60,000 or $80,000 truck, even a $50,000 truck that has that steel body that's going to start to rust the minute it sees its first winter weather. And so those are the 8 things we really, really would love to have if we could design an F-150 from scratch, the ultimate F-150. Lots of speed and power, like you get in the Power Boost or the Lightning. A generator mode, like you get in the Power Boost or the Lightning. Mechanical simplicity, like you get in the old 15 to 17 F-150 with the 5.0 Coyote before they put VCM on it. The payload and towing of the heavy-duty payload package. The fuel economy of the 3.0 Power Stroke. Self-driving, a 6.5 foot bed, and an aluminum body. That would be the perfect light-duty pickup. And in our minds, ideally, the perfect F-150. And that's the F-150 that Ford should have built starting in 2021, or whenever the Lightning came out. I know they announced it in 21. They started shipping it, early 23, late 22? I think late 22. And if they'd have done, any or all those things, the Lightning would have been a success. And instead, they did not, and the Lightning is a failure. It is a failed product. And so that brings us to 2025 and the Ramcharger 1500 pickup. And what Ram trucks have done is they have made practically the perfect light-duty pickup truck. It's got tons and tons of speed and power, like in an F-150 or a Lightning, without the crappy range of a Lightning, and without the tremendous mechanical complexity of the Power Boost. Give or take 600 horsepower, a sub 4.5 second 0 to 60. Not that that's really important, but the ability to start and pull a heavy trailer, that's hugely important. Up and down steep hills at high altitudes, that's tremendously important. The ability to pass safely on narrow roads, if you've got to cross the yellow line, the dashed yellow line. Huge deal. The generator mode, the 2025 Ramcharger has a generator mode, and just like the Power Boost, essentially identical to what the Power Boost has, whether or not the truck is driving, it can put out up to 7.2 kWs of 240. And that's a huge deal. Again, a game changer. We had a Power Boost, and it was extraordinary, knowing that truck could run all of the appliances in a camper. That truck could run our house during a blackout indefinitely, as long as you just keep topping off the gas tank. That truck could run your house in a hurricane when the entire state loses power. That truck could run your house during a tornado, during an earthquake in California. Every part of the country is getting extreme winter weather, extreme weather at any season of the year. And the power boost, again, that is life-changing once you've used that before. And so here's the thing that's amazing about that 25 Ramcharger. It has tremendous mechanical simplicity. An electric vehicle, an EV in general, kind of like this Tesla we're driving today, it's got no transmission. It's got no differentials. It's got electric air conditioning, electric power steering, no serpentine belt. It's got tremendous mechanical simplicity. Without an engine, you don't have hardly anything to break. It's got about maybe a couple of dozen moving parts in the entire powertrain. And the 25 Ramcharger, it does not have a transmission. Think about that. You will never have to change out your transmission when it takes a crap on you. And if you know what it means to tear apart a transmission, there are people who've been mechanics for 30 years and have been fixing engines for 30 years and have no idea how to fix a transmission because of how to take it apart or put it together, because of the tremendous, massive mechanical complexity that goes into a modern transmission. Even something like a 6-speed Allison, even something like I don't know, what's another good transmission? The 6-speed automatic that you used to get in the F-150. Very durable, very stout transmission. The 8-speed ZF in the Ram 1500s, that's a very durable and very stout transmission. We won't even talk about the 10-speed in the light duty F1 in the light duty, or the 10-speed in the Super Duty. Again, imagine an F-150 without a transmission, and that's what you would get if Ford had made something like the Ramcharger. And so that engine that it has, that is the onboard, what's called the range extender, basically a generator that has no mechanical connection to the wheels. All it does, just kind of like a diesel electric locomotive, all it does is generate power that it feeds to the battery for the most part, and then the batteries feed power to the front and rear drive units. And oh, by the way, it's a naturally aspirated engine. It's a 3.6 Pentastar, and the Pentastar has been out for, we drove the first one that we had ever seen in 2011 in like a Charger, and that's a stout engine. That's a solid engine. It makes good power, and has generally been reliable. It's got no forced induction, so no turbos to die on you, no head gasket to worry about when you're putting boost through it, maximum boost through it for hours and hours at a time, days and weeks and months at a time, towing big heavy trailers. All it is a naturally aspirated 3.6 liter V6 hooked up to a generator. Essentially the most reliable internal combustion engine powered vehicle you will ever see. That isn't a Honda or a Toyota, because again, there's basically nothing to go wrong in that engine. In a perfect world, they would put the 3.0 straight 6 Hurricane engine into it. But the thing about that engine is that it's brand new and that it's untested and it's unproven. And yes, it's mechanically more simple than a V6. You've only got one cylinder bank, one cylinder head, one valve train, and a lot easier to work on because there's, the exhaust is on one side, the intake's on the other side. Everything's where you can see it and work on it. The only problem though with that engine, again, beside the fact that it's brand new and untested and unproven, and so you don't know what kind of gremlins are going to come up after 100,000 miles, but the fact that it's very long, and if you ever had to change spark plugs, the number 5 and 6 are going to be very hard to get to because they're going to be buried under the in the firewall. And so that's really, those two are the only real downsides to going with a straight 6. And if you want to take that out of the equation, again, the 3.6 Pentastar is a great engine, non-turbocharged, to have in that truck as your range extender. And oh, by the way, it's hooked up to a generator that I think can only put about 138, 140 kWs into the battery. And so here's the thing about that. You might say, well, if you're hitched up to a 14,000 pound trailer, you're taking a long trip, 3 to 5 to 800 miles, maybe 1,000 miles, maybe cross country, and you're going 2,000 or 2,500 miles, and you're not planning to plug in your truck to recharge at any point during the trip, which means it's basically going to be running off the engine or the range extender for the entire duration of the trip, which is in fact possible. You might say, is 138 kWs enough power out of that range extender to keep juice flowing into the battery to keep the truck moving when it's going maybe uphill with a heavy trailer? And are you going to somehow run the battery all the way down and not be able to recharge it fast enough and wind up in limp mode? And the answer to that, as we have heard from at least one source, is that it won't just put power into the battery. It can also send power directly to the inverters in the front and or the rear drive unit, and generate a lot more than just 138 kWs, if that makes sense. So you're running power from that engine, or the so-called range extender, both into the battery and also directly bypassing the battery directly into the front or rear drive units. And that's just a brilliant piece of engineering, if in fact that's what it's going to do. And so again, you get this truck, this Ramcharger, the 2025, is checking all the boxes so far. Let's talk about payload and towing. This truck has a payload of, I think they said 2,650 pounds, give or take, and towing of fully 14,000 pounds, which is extraordinary when you think about it, from a truck that is basically an electric pickup, which means it's going to weigh somewhere around 7,000 or 8,000 pounds because of the extreme weight of those batteries. It's got 8 lug wheels. It's essentially a 2500 in terms of the chassis and probably the brakes. And then to add a 14,000 pound trailer to that truck, you're talking about 8,000 plus 14, or a 22,000 pound gross combined weight rating. Okay, that is what you used to get out of a Ram 3500 a couple of decades ago, and now you're getting it out of a 1500 series pickup, or what they call a 1500 series pickup. But what's really, again, if we're being honest, it's a 2500 in terms of the chassis, in terms of the axles, in terms of the tires. You know it's going to have E-rated tires. In terms of the brakes, and in terms of the toughness of the frame, and everything else that goes into it to be able to pull a 14,000 pound trailer with a truck that is going to be in the area of 7,500 to 8,000 pounds, or maybe more. Again, absolutely extraordinary. Like I said, one of the major weaknesses in the Power Boost is the fact that it only has, or any non-heavy duty payload package equipped F-150, the max gross vehicle weight rating on it is around 7,350, and it's very easy to overload that truck. To overload the GVW of the truck, even if you don't overload the front or rear axles, because you could load the front axle to 4,000, the rear axle to 4,000, which are the limits on those two axles in a Power Boost with the max tow package. And you'd think, well, I'm good, aren't I? No, you're not, because the max GVW of that truck is only 7,350, and so you have significantly overloaded something like a Power Boost just by maxing those two axles out. And again, for the Ramcharger 1500, so-called 1500, to be able to pull a 14,000 pound trailer with about 2,500 plus pounds of payload is absolutely extraordinary. And again, game changing. It means we could comfortably, completely confidently tow our 14,000 pound Featherlight fully loaded with that truck. And so we're batting 1,000 so far. Okay, number 4, that was towing, payload and towing we just talked about. Number 5, fuel economy and longevity. We'd have to actually sit down and crunch some numbers as far as the actual fuel economy of this truck, the Ramcharger. Because obviously when you're running in EV mode, which I think you get about 140 or 150 miles of pure electric range without a trailer, and I would say in temperate weather, that is about the max that most people are going to be driving on a typical day. Unless you're doing a road trip, unless you're doing a very, very long day. We're doing about a 500-mile day today. All the way from eastern Pennsylvania down to Winchester, Virginia and back. Yeah, that's way beyond the electric-only range in the Ramcharger. But a typical day for us really does not exceed 150 miles. A typical day is between 50 and 100 miles. And that's just kind of driving around town, taking care of business, doing one thing or another. We could drive to New York City and back from where we live in 150 miles. We could drive to Philadelphia and back with a 150-mile range. And obviously, when you're charging at home, you're only paying like 15 cents, maybe 20 cents a kW hour. And that's the equivalent of, you know, in this Tesla, when you charge it at home, 100%, you're getting the equivalent dollars per mile of like a 100-mile to the gallon car, 100 mpg car. When you're using Tesla chargers, you're getting about the equivalent of a 30-mile per gallon car. So it's a complicated story, but let's assume that with that Ramcharger, you are taking extended trips that completely deplete the battery and force you to rely on the range extender, that 3.6 Pentastar engine. Think about the fact that, okay, yes, you're burning gas, and that engine's going to be under heavy load to generate, 100 plus kWs of power. We're talking 130 to 150 to 180 horsepower, maybe more if you need to power the wheels directly with the engine. And so it's going to be revving high, and it's going to be under heavy throttle. Got it. However, you're not going to be under any boost. And the thing that kills your fuel economy in a typical F-150 with an EcoBoost engine is the fact that it's under boost. And when a gasoline engine is under boost, it burns a tremendous amount of fuel, an extraordinary amount of fuel. And so I'd say the Ramcharger 1500, when it's running with the gas engine turned on because the battery's been fully depleted, yeah, it's not going to have the fuel economy of like a 3.0 Power Stroke, because a diesel just inherently has better fuel economy because it's got more BTUs in the fuel, and the engine can operate much more efficiently and generate much more torque at lower RPMs. And the lower you can push those RPMs, generating the same amount of power, the more economical you are in general. At the same time, while it may not have the fuel economy of a diesel, it will have a lot better fuel economy than something like an EcoBoost. Again, after the battery has been fully depleted. And so, as far as we're concerned, that's a perfectly acceptable trade-off, because of the fact that most of the time you're not going to be running that engine at all, because you're going to be going less than 150 miles in the course of a day, and then recharging that battery overnight. So I consider that a success in terms of number 5. Number 6, the Ram will have a self-driving system. It may even have a hands-free self-driving system, which we really don't have any need for, because we don't trust a vehicle to drive itself without our hands on the wheel and not do anything stupid that's going to cause us to have to intervene. So that's 6 for 6 on that. The truck only has a 5.5 foot bed. And I guess I'd say you can't win them all. It would be nice if it had a 6.5 foot bed, because then you could actually fit a decent amount of cargo in it. And you'd also be able to tow that tapered nose gooseneck that we have with no worries that the trailer is going to impact into the side of the cab. But it is physically possible to tow a gooseneck with a 5.5 foot bed. You just need like a little adapter that it can be done. And number 8, it is almost entirely certain that the Ram, the REV, meaning the electric vehicle Ram, with or without the range extender, will have a steel body, not an aluminum body. And you know how Rams tend to disintegrate very quickly. They do not have the longest lasting body of any truck, not even close. And I guess I'd say, we're prepared to live with that, because of the fact that it's so good in so many other ways, at least on paper, at least based on everything we've heard about it so far. This truck is what the F-150 Lightning should have been. And if Ford had the common sense to put a range extender in the F-150 Lightning instead of what they call the Mega Power Frunk, Ford could have achieved tremendous commercial success in the marketplace with the F-150 Lightning. But because nobody at Ford had the common sense to think that people who buy a pickup truck are going to want to use it like a pickup truck and take long trips, the Lightning's a failure. They could have made like half Lightning, the back end of a Lightning with the front end of a power boost. Everything forward of the windshield is a power boost, and everything behind the windshield is a Lightning, and it would have been basically the perfect truck. And instead they went full EV, and I'm not going to say that's like going full retard, because first of all, you're not supposed to use that word, but they just jumped on the bandwagon and they got ahead of themselves. Battery technology is not where it needs to be, and will not be where it needs to be for a fully electric pickup truck to do what people expect it to do anywhere in the next 3, 4, 5 years. And so as a result, we predict the rest of the marketplace will come around to what Ram has come up with here. An electric pickup that has all the advantages of an electric pickup, coupled with all the advantages of a internal combustion engine pickup. And we're really looking forward to hearing more about it, and potentially in 12 months, looking forward to getting our hands on it. If it was in front of us right now, we would not hesitate to add it to our fleet in a heartbeat. So great work to the team at the Ram Trucks, and they lost a couple of years after the Power Boost came out, and I guess they were just watching and learning and taking notes, and what they've come up with is a real game changer. It's the one light duty pickup truck that basically does everything perfectly, just about. And as Boba Fett would say, this is the way. And this is how light duty pickups are going to go from here on out. Nobody is going to buy an electric pickup knowing that they could get something like this with a range extender built in. All right, thanks, and hope everyone's having a great day. We've had a fantastic day out here in the Shenandoah Valley, and we will talk to you later.